What's up, traders? Welcome to this live stream with Richard Nasser. Now, he's about to jump on, but I did want to leave you guys with something to think about before we get into it. Now, my sponsors, Bitget, have actually announced something very special for Trading Nut listeners. So, as a Trading Nut listener, someone who's into crypto, you're definitely going to want to listen up on this. So, it's a special 85% discount on trading fees on the Bitget platform. And look, this is so cheap. It's cheaper than pretty much every single crypto exchange out there, every single Forex broker, and it's only for a limited time. So if you do want to get access to this, you've got until the 26th of May, so 30 days to take action, and there's only 1,000 of them going as well. So this is going to lock in these 85% discounted fees on Bitget. And it doesn't end there, right? It doesn't end there. Number two, they've actually got a trading competition coming up where you can win hundreds of Bitcoin. So if you are after Bitcoin or crypto or trying to get a stockpile of crypto, then this is something you want to check out as well, and sort of ties perfectly in with the discount on the trading fees and the competition. So that competition starts before this offer ends as well. And not only that, but you're also going to get 5% bonus on whatever you deposit, up to $100 US dollar tether. So guys, if you are looking to get into your crypto trading big time, which you probably are because you are here watching this live stream with Richard, then yeah, definitely go and check that out. Now, what I've done is I put a link under the video that you must click to get access to this particular offer, and also details in the description. So if you want to read what I've just gone on about, then you can go and do that under the video whilst Richard is walking through his chart analysis. Now, you can combine the two even. So take some of this chart analysis, have a think about Bitget, join them together, and happy days. So right guys, let's get on with the show with Richard.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing good, and I'm very happy to have you here again. Thank you, Cam, again and again for the opportunity. As usual, we'll go over crypto instruments for this week. Last week we went over Forex ones, and of course next week would be Forex and so on. So one week Forex, the next one would be crypto. Happy to have you here all. Hope you can hear me well. Let me know in the comments. I'll keep an eye on the comments in case you have any questions or you want to request an altcoin analysis. Feel free to do it in the comment section, and I'll keep an eye on it. Let me know if you can hear me well. My connection is fine. Everything is working properly. Meanwhile, I'll share my screen. Okay, I'll keep an eye on the comments before we start. Okay, just let me know if you can hear me well. Everything's working properly. And meanwhile, as usual, we always start with total Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDT dominance to get a feeling about the overall market, and then we'll do XRP analysis from scratch. So it would be a good practical example. As you can see, I don't have any drawings here, and then we'll go over as much as we can. So if you have a specific instrument that you want me to go over, let me know in the comments and I'll add it to this list. Okay, if you can hear me, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video because it will help it reach more users and will help Trading Nut channel. Okay, before we get started, I have an announcement to make for this one. In collaboration with Trading Nut, I'm giving away one RichTL for free, which is RichTL lifetime package. So first of all, how to join the giveaway or the draw, which is going to be next week, how to be eligible to participate, and what is RichTL. First, let's start with RichTL. For those who don't know, you can see at the bottom of this video that you've got my website, which is usdt.com. And as you can see, the highlight here, trading made simple and rule-based, which means it's very important for you to have a rule-based strategy, especially when you are trading during live market conditions. So it's very important to backtest your strategy, to know that it's proven to have an edge, and then to gain confidence in it to apply it for future price action. Okay, so one of the main problems is that if you give two traders the same chart and ask them to each plot a trend line or a support and resistance, you'll probably see two very different results, right? Because we all know that technical analysis is subjective. That's why I created RichTL, which is, as you can see, which is rich, which is me, and trend line. Okay, so HTL simply plots these dots, which is, as you can see, in red for the high and blue for the low, and we'll be using HTL to draw what we call an objective or also a rule-based trend line. Okay, you can also use it to identify market structure, spot patterns, locate rejection zones, and so on. Okay, so you can check out the website. HTL works on MT4, MT5, and TradingView, which you can already see here. I have it on my chart. And also, when you purchase HTL, you will get, first of all, a full course, which you can see here, like 9 lectures, 20 hours, which includes like exactly a full course from A to Z. Like, even if you are a complete beginner and you don't know how to analyze the chart, then this course is for you. And of course, we then go, it's divided into 5 modules. So the module 1 is an introduction and so on. So module 2 will get more in depth about technical analysis. Module 3 will be talking about HTL, the customized strategies, and so on. The course also includes a complete trading plan on when to enter, where to place your stop loss, how much to target, a risk management approach, and so on. Okay, and you will also get access to these two. The first one is a private community access, so which is like basically a group where you can ask questions and discuss trade setups. All right, so it's a very good one to like learn in a practical way. So, for example, you are analyzing a chart now. You have any questions about it? You can take a screenshot or post it there, and like I'll check it out and like make my comments about it. The second one is my personal weekly overview. Keep in mind that these are not signals, so I'm not a fan of signals. Okay, this is only where I share my personal weekly setups for crypto and forex. So like once for crypto and once for forex every single weekend, for you to learn in a practical way through weekly live examples. Okay, so you can scroll down and you can purchase it here. You already have a coupon of $100 discount, which you can see at the bottom of the screen. But for now, we are giving away one HTL for free. Let me check the comments real quick before we get started. Hello, Victor. Hello, Phil. Hope, guys, you're doing good. Amazing. So let's move forward. Where is my chart? Here we go. So the steps are very simple. First of all, you need to join my Telegram channel, or like if you're not a fan of Telegram, you can join my Discord server. You can find the links in the description of this video. Okay, this is the first step. Do 1 or 2, or like if you would like to join both, it's fine. Second, you can also follow me on Twitter, which is this one here. So this is for Telegram at the Signalist, and this one is the Signalist. Okay, follow me on Twitter, and then when you are done with these 2 steps, you simply write your name in the comment section below. And next week, before we start the session, I'll make a draw and we'll select one winner live here. Okay, so that would be it. Let's get started. Of course, let's start with total, then Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. Let me check the comments real quick. Top of the day. Hello, Z4, hope you're doing good. If you have any questions, guys, let me know in the comments, or you can even request any instrument. I would be happy to, any in this case, any crypto instruments, and I would be happy to go over it. So let's do it. And as usual, cheers, right? So on total weekly chart, we are still overall bullish. We can clearly see it, that our impulse, a big correction, a bigger impulse, and a deep correction here. So for now, we are expecting this next impulse movement upward, unless we have a break below this low and would be still inside the correction phase, and a movement to the low rejection or the next one would be expected, which is obviously this demand zone in green, as we had an aggressive movement upward from it. Right, so we are bullish, approaching the support, which is a non-horizontal support. That's why we are looking for buy setups. If you zoom a little bit in, we can see that the momentum is shifted now from bearish to bullish after we have a break above this high here, right? However, I mentioned last week, if you remember, that for extra confirmation, we've got many wicks here, right? So the price failed to break above this high here. That's why we are still waiting for a momentum candle close above it to confirm that the buyers are finally taking over from a long-term perspective. For now, we are still trading inside this channel. We are bullish because technically from daily time frame, total manages to make higher highs and higher lows. So we've got our impulse, a correction, impulse, and we are currently in this correction phase. So we are looking now for an impulse movement upward, and then if the bulls manage to break above this area, then the bulls will take over from a long-term perspective, and we expect this movement. However, let's take it step by step, right? Approaching this lower area, that's why we are looking for buy setups, knowing that, as mentioned for weekly, if we break below these lows, then a movement to the next rejection would be expected, which we can see in green. Now, if you zoom into H4 time frame, you can see that previously we were bearish, price broke above the previous high, we are bullish, below the previous low, we are bearish, so we are now technically bearish. And like as you can clearly see, we've got a dot here, which is from HDL, which like identified the objective high, and for now, like here, identified our objective low. Okay, so even though we have a high here, right, and we have a high here, but we know that this is the objective high. We have a high here, we have a high here, but this is the objective high. Okay, so anyway, now we are bearish after breaking below this low here, and we traded lower. So we've got our first impulse. Sorry about that. Let me go back to H4. Our impulse, a correction, impulse, and we got this deep correction, and we are currently in this impulse lower. So we are, as mentioned from daily and weekly, we are looking for buy setups. So we'll be waiting for this to happen, right? For this channel to be valid, we need three touches, 1, 2, and 3, right? So, and anyway, we can see it better from H1 time frame. Here we go. All right, so I could previously waiting for this to happen, didn't happen, kept trading higher, and then broke below this low here, which we saw from H4 from H4 time frame. So now we are waiting for this, as mentioned from H4. Meanwhile, until this happens, we would be bearish, and we are still bearish here, and you can still trade lower and lower. In this case, we'll draw a new maybe wedge pattern or trend line or anything, or like look for any bullish reversal pattern like a double bottom and so on to confirm that the buyers are taking over. Okay, so this is basically it. We are bullish from daily and weekly around the lower band. That's why we are looking for buys unless we have this breakdown. And we can see a very similar scenario on Bitcoin. And I've posted like this one on TradingView like a couple of days ago. That here we go. That for now, for the bulls to take over, we need to see a break below this low broken downward, now acting as a resistance. So from a short-term perspective, we need to see a break above it. Let me remove this one. Here we go. So if we have a daily close above it, then the bulls would take over from a short-term perspective. From a medium-term perspective, which like I would like to see, we need to see a break above this high here. And of course, from a long-term perspective, which we saw also on total, we need to see this break here. Okay. Meanwhile, we are still bearish, right? So lower highs, low lows, lower highs, low lows, and you can still drop lower and lower. And then our next support would be around this area. Anyway, let's check it out with our support and resistance. So that's the view from weekly time frame. We are bullish. We've got this correction, previously impulse. We are waiting for this impulse to start, unless again and again we break below this area, right below these lows here, and which would also be below the 38 40k support, and also below this trend line in blue. Then the bears would remain in control. This would be an impulse, a correction, and then an impulse movement again, then a movement till our next rejection. In this case, it's a demand zone also would be expected. Then we'll be expecting this. Okay. But for now, let's take it step by step. We are still around a support area, and we can see that we are now bullish, so we can still see this impulse movement upward. And as you can see, price is struggling to break below this area. We can zoom in again to daily time frame, and we can see that we are also bullish here, making higher highs and higher lows trading inside this channel. And price is currently approaching the lower band, which is also the lower trend line, 38k 40k support. That's why we are looking for buy setups. However, As mentioned, we are waiting for extra confirmation, which we saw from daily. We want this break, the first one, short term, this break for a medium term before we expect this movement upwards. Okay, again and again, if you zoom into to H4 time frame, we got the same channel that we saw on total. Okay, so this is short term, which we saw on daily time frame, and however, we will be still bearish trading inside this channel. So we still need to see this break upward, which would also be the midterm like zone broken upward, which we saw from daily time frame. Okay, meanwhile, we would be bearish. And the exact same analysis for Ethereum. Okay, so this is basically it. We are inside this big channel. I also posted this one on Ethereum. Here we go. Let me. Okay, this is it. Right, we can clearly see that Ethereum has been overall bullish, trading inside this channel in brown. All right, and it's currently retesting this area, which is what broken upward. We were bearish, of course. Then we've got this high broken upward. Now we're in this correction phase, and we are waiting or expecting this bullish movement. Of course, unless the zone is broken downward, then a movement to our next one would be expected. For now, Ethereum is trading inside this floor, right? So this is our floor, this is our ceiling until this one is broken down. Of course, this is from weekly, but like I'm just showing you the overall picture, okay? And of course, if we've broken upward, this would be our support, this would be our ceiling. So this is it. If we go, okay, let me check this one here where we have our levels. So the exact same one that we saw on the other layout. We have our impulse correction now. We're expecting this impulse. So for the correction to end, we always need to zoom into lower time frames and look for buy setups, right? Because the correction might still be till around the previous low, which is also what a demand zone, as we had an aggressive movement upward from it, right? Unless of course it's broken downward, and this channel will be broken downward, and we are still overall bearish. But from a medium-term perspective, we have this break. From a long-term perspective, we are bullish, right? That's why we are looking for a trend continuation after this break and continuation to the upside. Now, if you zoom into daily time frame, you can see that we are also trading inside this channel. I don't want to see this one here. So we are still overall bullish trading inside this channel. We can still test the lower bound, which is here, which I showed you from weekly, a demand zone, the 2.5K, and so on. But for now, we are looking for buy setups. As you can see, price broke below the 3K. So we need the buyers to prove to us they are strong enough to take over by breaking above the 3K again, which is also what this previous low and this high here, right? So rejection, broken upward, rejection, broken downward. So now let's see if the buyers can be strong enough to break above it. Meanwhile, we are still bearish because here we go, low broken downward, our impulse, our correction, our impulse, our correction, and this is our impulse. So for now, this is our last major high, and we've got a minor one here. Okay, so we can still trade lower, make a correction, drop lower to around here, then we'll be looking for buy setups on our next rejection. Because clearly now the 3K is acting as a resistance area, which is also this low here. Exact same channel we saw on Bitcoin and total. This is it. So for the bulls to take over, we still need to see this, a break above the 3K, and would also be a break above this channel. Meanwhile, we would be bearish, and we can still trade lower and lower till around this area where we'll be looking for new buy setups. Let me check the chat real quick if you guys have any questions. Cheers. Okay, fantastic. Let's continue. We're done with this one. Okay, we can see that we've got USDT dominance. So if USDT dominance goes higher, it means like it's bad for crypto. Like means people are selling their tokens and like technically they are like shifting their Bitcoin, for example, to USDT, like selling it, right? And if USDT dominance is going lower, it means that like traders are like buying Bitcoin or like any altcoin with the USDT. Okay, so we can clearly see that on weekly time frame. You can see it even better. We've got this channel here, and it's approaching a very strong area around 5%. We can still have this wick higher, right, just like previously. Okay, but it's now approaching this resistance area. It's also a supply and so on. As you can see, many rejections from it previously, and price is currently stuck here. And we also had the support and resistance. We can see it very clearly from weekly: a resistance here, a support here, resistance, and now acting as support. So from a medium-term perspective, we need to see a rejection from here and then a rejection like this. For example, just like this one, a rejection lower, breaking below the 3.75 and then rejecting it downward to reach the 2.5. But let's take it step by step. Now approaching this area, which is also a supply zone here, as we had an aggressive movement downward, which is what? Which is the demand zones we saw on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and so on. Okay, so we might still trade higher to fill this supply zone before we trade lower. From daily time frame, we can see it even better. That's our support and resistance here and here. And like now USDT is trading inside like this movement, forming like a shape of a symmetrical triangle, knowing that, as mentioned previously, we can still trade a little bit higher, just like previously here and here. For my wick, reject this area before we trade lower. Okay, of course, if we zoom into H4, we can even see it better. The exact same channel we saw on Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is a falling one, we can see an opposite one on USDT. Okay, which obviously makes total sense. So now we'll be expecting this maybe, and then this before we see a drop lower. Of course, for the bears to kick in from here, we need to see a break below this low here, and sorry about that, and a break below this channel, which is currently a rising channel engulfing the overall movement upward. Okay, now let's go for our how to analyze any chart from scratch, which is XRP. It would be a good practical example on how to approach any crypto chart if it's a new one. And we don't have anything here, so we'll go over it. And then I've prepared like a lot, like which are obviously on my watch list. We've got red, we've got like purple, and we've also got orange and blue, right? So this is basically it. We'll go over this one, and then we'll go over as many as we can. Feel free to request any instrument in the comment section. I'll keep an eye on it. Okay, it's very well explained. Thank you so much. I'm glad that you like my style. If you have any questions, let me know here, or even like request a chart analysis. I would be happy to do it. Victor, hope you're doing good. Super clean of the charts. You are amazing, Victor. Cheers. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know. And meanwhile, I'll go over XRP. So we have a new chart. And first of all, we need to start from the higher time frames, right? From weekly and daily to know where we are in the market. Are we overall bullish, bearish, or stuck inside a range? Clearly here on XRP, we are overall bearish, right? So next, we want to look for a rejection area. We've got three types of rejections. The first one is a typical supply and resistance, where we have many failed attempts to break above or below a certain level or area. In this case, we've got this zone here, which we can clearly see. Anyway, we'll do it in a bit. A resistance multiple times, now acting as a support area. Okay. Our second type of rejection is a supply and demand zone. So when we have an aggressive movement upward from a certain base or area, that's a demand, and as price approaches it again, we'll be looking for buy setups, and vice versa. When we have an aggressive movement downward, that's a supply zone. So we've got a supply zone here. Okay, and as price approaches it again, we'll be looking for sell setups. We previously had a supply zone here, aggressive movement downward, right, and so on. And we've got a minor demand zone here and a demand zone here, which we saw previously, and now we've got this demand zone. Okay, anyway, we'll do it in a bit. So this is our second type of rejection. The third type is a non-horizontal support resistance, which is like the same as this one, but the difference is it's a non-horizontal support resistance, which is also known as a trend line, because it's a line and a trend, so a trend line. Okay, so these are the three types of rejections. Let me delete them all, and let's start with our support resistance, the first one. The way to do it is very simple. You simply draw a line on your chart and drag and drop it in a way to connect as many swings as possible. Okay, of course, like we'll keep this one, which is around like 3.3. Okay, so like let's keep 3.3, and of course I'll go for 3 because it's a very strong round number. But like, of course, like this one is not a support resistance, like only one rejection from it, which is not valid. Okay, but we'll keep it anyway because it's at the all-time high and round number 3. Now, if you go lower, as you can see, we can't really connect anything. Okay, if you go lower, we can only connect one here, but I'll keep it also because why? It's the round number 2. Okay, but of course, it's not a support and resistance. Let's move forward. If we go lower, we can see only like one rejection here, like 1 or 2 rejections, so it's not a valid one. But if you go lower, we can see that we've got many rejections from this area, right? And of course, it's an entire area, so it's not a laser level. You should treat it like this. Okay, but like for the analysis, I keep it as a level to keep my chart as clean as possible, and it happens to be what? The round number 1. Okay, we can see that we've got a resistance here, a rejection from it, a rejection from it here, acting as a resistance. Price broke it upward, now acting as support, rejected it upward, then price broke it downward, now acting as a resistance, rejected it downward, then broken upward, now as support, broken downward, now acting as a resistance, right? So for the bull to take over from a long-term perspective here, we need to see a break above this resistance, which is the round number 1, and as mentioned previously, a very strong support and resistance. Next, if we go lower, right, so like we already have this one, you have like many options to do it. The first one is you keep it as a level, but treat it as a zone, or draw an actual zone, like for example, 0.99, for example, right? So this is an actual zone now. Next, if we go lower, here we go. Anyway, right? So we've got a very strong one here, which I showed you at the start also. So we've got a support here, a resistance here, a resistance here, resistance again, broken upward, support, and support again. Of course, it's an entire zone, so you should treat it like 1. So let's go for 0.6 and 5. Here we go. Next, we go lower. Okay, so we don't really have much here, but we've got a very clean one around this area, around 0.3. I go for green because we already got blue up there. So that's it. A resistance, a support, support again, broken downward, a resistance now, resistance again, broken upward, support now. Okay, so just by drawing our support and resistance, now we know where we are in the market. If you zoom in, you can see that we are currently around this support and resistance. It's currently acting as a support because it's broken upward previously. So that's why we'll be looking for buy setups. And of course, we'll be looking. We don't buy blindly, no matter how strong a support is, because it can always like dive inside it before trading higher, just like these wicks here, or even breaks it downward to reach the next support area. For example, here we were looking for buy setups, but price broke it downward. Then rejected it, paid it lower, now acting as a resistance. Okay? So just by drawing our supply and resistance, look at how clean this one is. Next, let's go over supply and demand zones. As mentioned, we have one here, but I will not draw it because we already have a support. So to keep the chart clean, we previously had one here, but it's already filled. Okay, we have a supply zone around this area. Okay, so like, of course, I also read it to keep the chart as clean as possible. So this is basically it. Next, let's go for what? For our trend lines. We can see that price is currently trading inside a big range. And we can see that the impulse movements and correction is getting lower and lower and smaller. So, right, so we've got our first impulse, a correction like this, another impulse but couldn't make a higher high, another correction like this couldn't make a lower low. So we don't have a clean trend because we don't have higher highs and higher lows, and we don't have lower lows and lower highs. we have like lower highs and higher lows, which is like forming like a symmetrical triangle. Okay, so this is it. So now we need to find a trend line. Of course, like it's not a lazy line; it's an entire zone, but just for overall direction or just to see it better. So we can see that now XRP is trading inside this shape, and here we go. Okay, just for overall direction, of course, we can draw it in multiple ways. We can draw this one here. We can make this one higher, right, and to test this area. But like that doesn't really matter. It's just for overall direction because it's from daily and weekly time frame. Okay, I don't want to see it on lower time frames for now. Okay, so this is basically it. Long story short, XRP approaching a support area. That's why we are looking for buy stops. Unless it's broken downward, then it would become resistance and a movement to our next support would be expected. Now, if you zoom into daily time frame, like sometimes when you find so much from weekly, you can't really find much from daily. Okay, but if you zoom out, you can see the support and resistance zones very, very clearly. Right, so you can see a support here, resistance, support, resistance, resistance, and support and resistance here. So now we'll be looking for buy setups. Of course, you can even zoom into lower time frames and so on. But for now, since we already have this trend line here we go, right? So we are now bearish after breaking below this low. So now bearish, making low lows and lower highs. We've got our first impulse here, which broke this low downward impulse. A correction retested this previous low, now turned at a potential short-term resistance, rejected it, traded lower. This is our next impulse movement lower. Of course, as I always like to make an offset for it, so for it to be like a channel just to feel the overall movement. You can see that XRP is currently trading inside this falling channel. However, it's approaching the support area, which is an entire area. As you can see, price can still dive deeper before trading higher. So we'll be looking for buy setups and waiting for the bulls to take over. In this particular case, for example, we might see this another high forming here and then a break above it, or we might see any bullish reversal setup. Like for example, price can still dive lower, form a double bottom, and then break it upward. We can't really know, right, because it hasn't happened yet. But this is what we are waiting for: approaching a support, waiting for the bulls to kick in to speculate a bullish movement from here. Of course, you can even zoom into lower time frames and dig deeper and deeper and if you want to catch smaller movements. For example, I want to see it on lower time frames. So like as price approaches the lower bound, it would also be an oversold area and non-horizontal support. We can also look for buy setups around this area. We can follow the same logic, draw a trend line, or like look for any bullish reverse setups like a double bottom, inverse head and shoulders, and so on. Okay, we previously were bullish, broke through the previous low, traded lower, and we are currently bearish. Okay, let me check the comments and we'll continue with my analysis. Amazing. Okay, let's move forward. Let's start with our Quant or QNT. If you zoom out to weekly time frame, we can see that we've got a demand zone here. That's why we are looking for buy setups. Of course, unless this one trades lower and lower and break this area, then it would no longer be acting as a rejection area. But for now, approaching the support, we are looking for buy setups. Now, if you zoom into daily time frame, we can see like the whole story. So we were bullish previously, big impulse movements pushing price higher, small correction, a bigger impulse, and then even bigger impulse movements. And then price formed this low here. This is a minor low, and then formed this major low around this area. As you can see, we've got a higher high and we've got a break below it, a classic retest multiple times before we dropped even lower. So bullish, now bearish, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse, and so on. So starting from here, we can see that the bears are failing to drop any lower. So for us to have a clean bearish trend, for the bears to remain in control, we would like to see this movement, right? So an impulse pushing lower, a small correction, right? So the impulse is pushing in the direction of the trend. That's why the impulse movements are usually bigger than the correction movements. Another impulse, a small correction, another impulse, a deep correction, right? Which is, if you compare this correction to these ones, look at how flat this one is, look at how flat this one is, right? So impulse flat, which means that the sellers are very strong, not even letting the buyers make a correction, because like it's going flat, it's not a classic one, okay? And so like that's how we also can feel on like how strong the bears are. However, starting from here, we can, like the first time we saw this impulse movement upward, which means that, of course, like the bears are still in control because we've got our last high here, right? And we are still making lower lows and lower highs. However, when this correction happened, let me go for bar replay and to keep it as clean as possible, right? So here we go. So for now, this is still our last high. So for the bulls to take over, we still need to see this, right? However, we can see that this correction is very strong compared to the previous ones, which means that the bulls are now stronger than before, or the bears are exhausted and couldn't push lower, or like couldn't hold the buyers from making a correction. However, we are still bearish, as you clearly see price cap trading lower. However, next we saw that price formed a higher low. So we were bearish previously, making lower lows and lower highs. Then price formed a higher low, which is our second alert that a potential reversal might happen. Not confirmed yet, it's just an alert. So we can start to look for buy stops on lower time frames, but from a long-term perspective, we are technically still overall bearish. For the bulls to take over, we still need to see a break above the last high, which is formed now. This was our last high. Now price formed a new high, and we can clearly see that if you connect the last lows, right, which is here, here, and here. So if connected with a line, right, we can see that we got like a possible shift in momentum, which is usually like this, right? So now we are in this phase, which I personally call a shift in momentum, but we are still waiting for the bulls to take over by breaking above the range. Okay, so bearish range, and we are now waiting for the bulls to kick in to like go long. And as you can see, anyway, let me make it faster. Here we go. Right. So now the bulls failed to break above the high, so we are still like inside a consolidation. And now we can see that we've got a lower high, high low, and now price is forming like an equal low, or like I don't know if it's a lower low or a high low. So like we don't have a clear structure. We don't have high highs and high lows. We don't have lower lows and lower highs. We we got mixed, like a mix of signals, bullish or bearish. That's when you know that you are inside a range. Of course, on lower time frames, since you are inside a range now, right, you can clearly look for buy setups on lower time frames around the lower bound of the range, right? So we can also look for buy stops here on lower time frames. But what we know from a long-term perspective is that we are inside a range and we are waiting for this to happen to enter our buy. If you zoom into H4 time frame, you can clearly see that, as mentioned previously, we are waiting for the bulls to take over, but we are still bearish also from a short-term perspective after breaking below this head and shoulders pattern. Anyway, let's focus on the current price action. We've got around number 100, which is a very strong one. And we also got this lower band, which is an entire area, right, which I showed you previously. So here we go. Okay, so let me make it appear. Fantastic. If you go to H4, this is it. Okay, so this is our lower bound. Price can still dive inside it, right, to get more liquidity to be able to push higher. But we can still see a rejection from here, right, and like trade higher. For now, as you can see, I have my alert here, which is the last major high, which is around this area. Of course, if price forms a new high here, or like this, a new high, I'll update my alerts. And I also have an alert, as you can see here, around this area, which is the last high from from daily time frame. 1, 2, right, this is it. And I have this one here also, with like in case like this one drops lower, something happens, then it would be an attractive price here to look for buy setups, because it would be the lower bound of our demand zone, which is also as support and resistance. Okay, so that's how you plan your trades. No matter if you're trading it on spot or margin, always wait for the bulls to take over before you go long or even short. Like for those who are trading it like on margin or futures, can look for sells here, of course, buys here, until eventually like price breaks it upward or downwards. And like since we were bearish previously, right, after this impulse movement, right, on every correction movement, on every correction, here we go, you can look for sell setups, right? So also impulse, we got correction, you can look for sell setups and so on. Anyway, like this is what I'm waiting for the current market conditions. Next, we've got Dogecoin, which I posted analysis of on my TradingView account, but like I'll go over it in more details now. Let me check the chat real quick and take a sip. Okay. Good morning, afternoon, Sito. Hope you're doing good. I'm happy to see you here. Cheers. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments and I would be happy to do it. Okay, meanwhile, I'll go for Dogecoin. Now, if you go to weekly time frame, we can clearly see that like we've got the hype here after this one, like made a big movement higher. And then we've got like always remember, whatever goes up will go down. Okay, that's why always remember to always take some profits. Okay, so anyway, let's focus on the current price action. What already happened. For now, I have this chart, like no matter if I'm holding or not, what to do. I also have two alerts around 0.2 and around 0.1. If it goes to 0.1 or like inside the zone, which is like from 0.5 if you want. Okay, so from 0.05, sorry, 0.05 till 1, which is this entire area, is a demand zone. Okay, so the demand zone is like technically here, but I made it 1 because it's that strong round number. Okay, so now I have two alerts, the upper bound and the lower bound. If it drops lower, I'll be looking for buys here because it would be an attractive price. If it drops even lower, like I would be I would be happier, right? Of course, if it breaks upward, then I'll be looking for buys. Okay, so on daily time frame, we can see that we were overall bearish previously, right? We've got this big impulse movement, a correction, a big impulse. Here we go, and starting from here, we got stuck inside this range, and this range got broken downward, and we are currently stuck inside this range. Okay, inside the range, we are waiting for what? For a break above it or below it to know who is taking over. Of course, it's arranged in the shape of a channel. We also got an inverse head and shoulders pattern, and we've got many rejections previously from this area around 0.2. It's an entire zone, of course. I should treat it like this. Okay, but like to keep it clean, I just made it smaller, which is the neckline of this inverse head and shoulders pattern. So the 0.2 is a very strong area because it's the neckline of the head and shoulders, a support and resistance, and so on. Okay. So by breaking above it, as you can see here, the bulls would take over because like they would already break the resistance, just like previously, right, acting as support. So it would now act as support again. We'll be looking for buys. Of course, the next resistance would become around 0.35. We'll be looking for sell here, like those who traded on futures or margin. Then we're looking for buy. Then we'll be looking for buys and so on. Okay, let me keep it cleaner. Here we go. So we've got this demand, which we saw from weekly time frame, and this is what we are waiting for. Now, if it drops lower, right, I have my alert around here. That's why I also have an arrow that I'll be looking for buy stops around the lower bound of this trend line, which is also would be the 0.1 round number, and it is also the upper bound of our demand zone. Okay, so this is basically like as clean as that. Next, we've got algo. We check the comments. Okay, hello Kilua, Hope you're doing good. I'm doing fantastic. Okay, so on weekly time frame, you can see like algo is very similar to like XRP. We've got a very strong support and resistance area, multiple rejections from it, broken upward, now acting as support, and price is currently retesting the support. That's why we'll be looking for buy setups. We don't buy blindly. Okay, let me delete it. So we zoom into lower time frames and look for buy stops. Unless we have a break below it, it would act as a resistance again, and the movement here would be expected. That's why I have my alert here. Right? And if it drops lower, we've got this area here, demand zone. It would be an amazing like price to go long. But for now, of course, price can still reverse from here. We'll be looking for buy setups. Of course, we always wait for extra confirmation, and we can even see it clearly from weekly time frame. We've got these highs here, right? Anyway, you will see it better from daily time frame, and these are the highs that I showed you previously. So now, as you can see, like algo is a perfect example of a trend, a bearish trend, a range, an upward trend, and then a range, downward trend, a range, right? So like hopefully if price would follow the cycle, now we're expecting this movement, but we can't really know, like no matter what strategy you are using, no matter how strong a signal is, or how much sense it makes, right? We don't like buy blindly. We always wait for extra confirmation and so on. So we are technically now overall bearish after breaking below this range downward. A classic retest impulse movement now inside this range, waiting for the buyers to kick in. Meanwhile, we are on the lower bound of the range, so we are looking for buy setups on lower time frames. Anyway, I don't have to see this one here. Okay, so look, this is from H4 time frame. Okay, so and we know that price can still dive inside this support before trading higher. Okay, and now if you zoom into, here we go. Now if you zoom into H4 time frame, you can see that now algo is trading inside this big channel, as we can see in orange. Okay, and meanwhile approaching the lower band. That's why we are looking for buy setups, just like we did previously. Inverse head and shoulders pattern, broken upward around the resistance, or like the upper band, or like the one, which we can see here, the one round number. Anyway, I'll draw it. Here we go, and one, fantastic. Okay, so one rejected downward, now approaching the 0.65, which is our support again. That's why we are looking for buy setups, of course, looking again and again. That's why we'll be waiting for the buyers to kick in. This would be a possible scenario. Let me go for purple, and here we go. Of course, like this is just an idea. Price can still trade lower from here. This is just what I would like to see, so that the rules as per my trading plan would be met, and then I'll be buying. Okay, and of course, if price drops lower, then I can draw maybe a new channel here, and we'll be looking for buys here and so on. But for now, as per the current price action, we are overall bearish, trading inside this area. Of course, we know that we are now inside a consolidation. Of course, like it's bearish, but like it is flat when compared to this impulse here. So a steep impulse, and now we are in this phase here. Okay, just like previously, we were steep, making big impulse lower. Then this one, as you can see, it's going flat, and then we've got this break above the head and shoulders and so on. So we are following the same logic here. We are now looking for this buy setup. Okay, so I don't know what to do here. Okay, I have to re-add it simply. So that's basically it. Meanwhile, we can still drop lower and lower, and I don't want to see this on daily. Next, dot. Okay, so Kilowa is asking, how do you confirm the reversal from the support and resistance? Well, you always zoom into lower time frames, or like if it's clear on the on the current time frame where you found the support and resistance, you always zoom into lower time frames and look for extra confirmation. For example, for algo, right, you can see that we don't buy blindly around a resistance or support. Right, so we've got a resistance here around the one. We don't like sell, in this case, sell blindly. We always zoom into lower time frames, or like you can see that it's visible here on daily time frame. got inside a range and broke it downward, we can scatter in this case from H4. Let me wait. My connection seems to be not stable. Let me know in the comments if you can hear me well. Okay, so we've got this head and shoulders pattern broken downward, and we previously, of course, around the support again. Here we go, which is here. A very strong support area has been respected like very well previously. Okay, now price rejected upward, but we didn't buy blindly here. We zoomed into lower time frames and like we waited for the bulls to take over. We've got an inverse head and shoulders pattern here. Okay. Meanwhile, support can also be broken. The same logic here. The support can be broken downward, but it's still a support. Okay, so like it's still a support, and like we'll be looking for bust ups until it's no longer a support. Okay, fantastic, Sito, and thank you for confirming. Okay, let's move forward. Let's go to the next one, which is DOT. Okay, on DOT, here we go. We've got like the price is clearly trading inside like this big or giant channel, whatever you want to call it. A big movement upward, a big movement downward. That's why I always say, always take profits when in a bull market. Whatever goes up, it will go down. Of course, like sometimes it will go up and then make a correction, but like more often than not, as you can clearly see from many charts here, that like whatever goes up and that previously went down in June 2021 and again in like at the end of 21. Okay, so we are anyway looking for basket ups again while expecting this impulse movement upward. Meanwhile, this one can still melt lower and lower and lower before finding more liquidity, volume, market cap, like buyers, holders, like whatever you want to call it, whatever the logic that you are following, right? So no matter what you do your research and so on, no matter how strong like an altcoin is or a project, the price says it all. Okay, so if it's bearish, it's bearish. Like no matter if they have good news, they have lunch, no matter what. Okay, because like I have this candle. Okay, like no matter if it's bad news or like I don't want to believe what I hear. Okay, I want to believe what I see. So I have this candle, like I don't care why it is bearish, why it is this big. I have this one. What to do now? Okay. So this is it. Now, no matter what's happening on DOT currently, okay, we have this last high. So we got our big impulse, a correction, an impulse, which is smaller than the previous one. Now we got stuck inside a consolidation like this. Anyway, we can see it better from daily time frame. Okay, just like previously. Here we go, right? So a big impulse. Sorry about that, not this one. Wrong one. Impulse, a correction, an impulse, a flat correction, and even smaller impulse, then price above the previous high and traded higher. Okay, and now we're following the same logic here. We can clearly see that we had an impulse, a correction, which is the same one we saw here, impulse, correction, right? So the exact same pattern, correction. We got our next impulse, which is here, right? And then we've got a flat correction. Now in this case, it's a big correction, another impulse, and now we went sideways. Okay, so for the bulls to take over, we still need to see a break above this area. Of course, the buyers are taking over now from a shorter term perspective above this high, right? But like this is our major high, which is also a supply and resistance. So we still need to see a break above this area here to confirm that the buyers are finally taking over from a long-term perspective. The 25-28 is also proven to be a supply and resistance. So how many rejections here? 3. Broken downward, now acting as a resistance. Like as you can see, price then reversed, broke upward, support multiple times. As you can see, like here, inside a consolidation before the break, then broken downward, now acting as a resistance. So I don't want to buy here around a resistance area. I want to wait for the break of it upward, right? Just like here, broken upward, like with many big bullish candles confirming the breakdown on the retest of it, I can look for buys, right? broken upward. Here we go with many big bullish candles on the retest of it. I can look for buys. Okay, so I'm following the same logic here. So waiting for this break, then on the retest I can look for buys. Meanwhile, okay, like the lower it gets, the more attractive it would be. Okay, and on weekly time frame, this is a demand zone. So the lower it gets, like the better. Like of course, like for those who are holding, like it wouldn't be good news. But for those who aren't holding yet and are planning to buy dot, it would be great. So the cheaper it gets, the better. So meanwhile, okay, so like because like if it gets cheaper, it gets more attractive, more people will be interested in buying it, especially if it's like dot, it's like overall a good project. So as price approaches the 10 round number, which is also a demand zone, it would be an attractive price for investors to kick in and to look for buys. And of course, we zoom into lower time frames as price approaches this rejection area to look for setups. Now we can draw a channel just like the one we drew on Ethereum and so on. All right, so this is it, waiting for this to happen, and then we might enter buy. Of course, as it drops lower, you can even zoom into lower time frames, draw a channel here, and here we go. So buy short term, like medium term, and the long term would be a break above this area, of course. But of course, as price approaches, we'll be looking for sell setups and so on. Anyway, let's take it step by step. Okay, this is what we are waiting for on dot. Meanwhile, we can still dive lower and lower and like this, or even like this, and then form a new pattern. In this case, this channel would no longer be valid. Like next, we might draw this trend line here, right? In this case, we'll be waiting for like if you have this drop, then we got an impulse, a correction, impulse. This would be the trend line engulfing the overall movement. We can even make an offset for it like this, and so on. Okay, but like this impulse is still small, so we've got this low, 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 low. This impulse is for this impulse. So that's why I drew my channel like this. Okay, but if it trades lower, then this would be the channel in blue. Anyway, let's take it step by step. We can't really know what might happen. Trading is reactive and not predictive, so please don't try to pick the exact bottom. You will never catch the exact bottom. Next, XLM. The exact same analysis for DOT, for Ethereum, for and so on. Right, we can see it also for head and shoulders pattern. Let me check the comments. Okay, can you buy when it makes a bullish pin bar or bullish engulfing candles near the support, or should we wait for any pattern formation? Well, it all depends, Kilowa, on your trading style, on your, of course, like on your trading plan. If you like back tested this like strategy before, and that is proven to have good results with a good risk to reward ratio, a good win rate, then yes. Okay. However, like I personally don't use pin bars and engulfing candles. Of course, like it's an indication that the buyers might take over. But of course, I always like for the previous swing to be broken upward, because like a candle is only a small candle inside a big swing. Okay, so if you might have like an engulfing, like I'll give you an example. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so let's say from daily time frame, right? Price approaching this support. It's a support zone, many rejections from it, and like we've got an engulfing pattern from daily timing. So this bearish candle and this bullish candle, like it might mean what? It might mean a double bottom on lower time frames, right? So it might be like on if you zoom in 1030 or H1, you might see this. Okay, so like it means that in a pin bar and or like any bullish reversal candlestick pattern, is a hammer and so on. Like it means that it's a pattern, a reversal pattern on lower time frames. So an engulfing pattern is simply a short term reversal. Okay, so like what we are trying to catch here is a long term one. So we've got a hammer here, right? So price rejected upward. Okay. However, like we've got a hammer here, let's say, and price like traded like just a little bit higher. Okay, we've got an engulfing pattern here, and then price traded lower. We've got like this giant one. Okay, so it's like, as you can see, we also got a pattern here and price rate higher. So we might really not know what like if it's going to hold or not, but this is a one candle inside a big swing. From perspective, we have an engulfing here. Yes, price rate higher, but then broke above this swing high here. This is why we had a big movement. Okay, again and again, it depends on your style, on your risk appetite, and so on. But like it's always good like to check the daily time frame, like because like it says all the story. From week to time you can find like the overall movement, the ejections and stuff like that. But when it comes to crypto, like and at least, and this is my opinion, daily time frame is very important. Okay, okay, so this is basically it. Let me check if we got any more comments. Fantastic. Let's move forward. Next, we got, as mentioned, XLM. So on weekly time frame, you can see the price is approaching a strong support and resistance. It was acting as support previously, broken downward, a resistance here, broken upward, a support here, right? And price is currently retesting the support, which is also what? It's also a very strong demand zone, as we had an aggressive movement upward from it. Okay. Sorry about that. So a demand zone and the support and resistance. So this indeed is a very strong area. So like if you are planning to buy XLM, which like indeed a good project, but if you would like to buy it, then you can start to look for buy setups. As you can see, I have two alerts here. One around 0.13 in case this one drops lower inside this demand, which is the lower bound of the demand. It would be an attractive price to look for buy setups, right? Of course, on lower time frames. And you can clearly see why I have this one here, which is this high here. Okay, so if it breaks it upward, right, then we can expect a bullish movement from here. Meanwhile, the lower it gets, the more attractive this one would be. Okay, we'll be looking for buys on lower time frames. So if it goes up, I have my alert. If it goes down, I have my alert. Okay. So this is it. On daily time frame, you can see like just like the one we saw, if you remember, on QNT. Okay, we were bearish previously, a big impulse, a small correction, and even big impulse, a steep one. Then, as you can see, price managed to make a lower low. However, it wasn't as strong as previously. So if we compare this impulse to this one, right? So if you zoom in, a lower low, a clear lower low far away from the previous one. While compare this one to this one, you can see that it's a lower low, but like look at how close to it, how close it is to the previous one. Next, if you compare this big impulse and the steep one to this one, right? Here we go. This one is steep, like it's smaller, and look at this one. It's also steep, but like it's bigger. So it's getting this impulse movements are getting smaller and flat, which give us an early alert that a potential reversal might happen. And anyway, if you simply connect the lows, right? So low here, and low here. So like simply connect the lows, we can clearly see that we are having or experiencing a shift in momentum. Of course, for this to happen, we need to see a break above the range, okay, which is exactly why I have my alert here. So if it breaks it upward, then we'll expect a bullish reversal. So bearish range now, waiting for the bullish takeover, and then we'll be buying. So this is basically it. Meanwhile, we'll be looking for buy stops starting from here. Of course, it would be more attractive to get to my alert in case it happens. Then we'll be looking for buys here in case this one drops lower. In this case, we'll draw a channel like this, and this one would be trading inside this. I'll be looking for buy stops around the lower bound, which is also a demand area on weekly and so on. Okay, so but for now, let's take it step by step. We've got an inverse head and shoulders pattern forming. It's still an idea. For it to be confirmed or valid, we need to see this movement, right? In this case, we'll have a break above the previous high from H4, and like just like what happened here, and just like what happened here, right? But it might be just a correction, yeah, like here, a correction, and then dropped lower, okay? Here, like, oh, of course, like here we didn't have the break, but you got the idea. Not every high broken upward is confirming a reversal, especially if it's a small one. Okay, so for now, these are the swings, 1, 2. Inside this impulse, we've got multiple impulse movements and correction and so on. Okay, impulse and correction and so on. So if it's a broken upward, it's not, doesn't mean that the bulls are finally taking over from a long-term perspective. This is our high here. Okay, so short term, if it's broken upward, long term. So this is basically it from a medium-term perspective, from a long-term perspective. But at least when this happens, it will confirm that this might be a good idea. But it's still an idea until eventually the neckline of it, which is covering the entire structure, is broken upward. And you can clearly see that it's also a support and resistance, right? There's ejections from it. Here we go. We also got a support here. Okay, multiple ejections from it, and like lately, price ejected it downwards. Okay, so looking for buy stops, unless we have a drop lower, we can look for buys here and so on. But it would fill my alerts. Of course, you can zoom into lower time frames now. It's like starting from now, the exact same channel we saw previously. So bullish here, then bearish here, and now we are bearish, and we might wait for this to happen maybe. Meanwhile, we can still drop lower. We might get another consolidation here and then break it up. We can't really know, but like this is what we are waiting for. Atom. Let's check the comments. You are more than welcome, Kirua. I'm happy that you are enjoying the session. Let me know if you have any more questions. I would be happy to go over it. I'll keep checking the comments after every analysis. Cheers. So let's move forward. On Atom, right? So here we go. On Atom, we are clearly bullish, right? So like I don't need any trend lines. Or I can draw a trend line here and so on, but I don't really need any trend lines or anything to tell me that. I can see it visually that we are overall bullish. Got an impulse, a correction, a bigger impulse, and a bigger correction. So keep in mind that the bigger the impulse, the bigger the correction. So a small one, a small correction, a big one, a bigger one, an even bigger one. So expect a bigger correction because nothing can trade on the same direction always. Like right, so like this one can't really go this far without correcting. So like it can't really go like till the end of time. Okay, so keep that in mind always when you are in deep profit, like take some profit, if you want, like at least close half, right? Like if you've entered here and price is currently here, so like now you are sitting in like 600% or like 200%, at least close half, right? In this case, if it drops lower again, then like you will be adding the half that you closed here. Okay. Anyway, what happened. Let's focus on the next movement. We are bullish, right? We are clearly bullish. We've got a demand zone here, so I can also draw one here, but like I didn't because I want to keep it as clean as possible. So which is around 10, like between 8 and 10, but let's go for the 10. Okay, a round number, rejection many times, support now. It's also a demand, right? And we had previously a demand zone here. So it's a rally base and then a rally, and then price tested it, we looked for buy setups and so on. Anyway, now since we've got many rejections from this area, it's now acting as support. It's also the round number 20. Okay, also if we draw a channel, we can see it better from daily. For now, let's keep it clean. So if it breaks below this area, then this would be our next rejection, a support and demand. For now, since price is around this support, we'll be looking for buy setups. Okay, a support here, a resistance here, and now we've got this support here. So this is an entire support and resistance area, so price can still dive inside it to test this area here before we trade higher. Okay, so on daily time frame, we can see that here we go. So like this is the channel or like in this case like the rising broadening wedge. Impulse correction, a bigger impulse. Now we're expecting a bigger correction, and here we go, and even bigger impulse. Hopefully, this is our supply resistance, support, resistance, support multiple times, looking for buy setups. Of course, as price dives in, Here it would be an amazing area because of the intersection of this support, this trend line, the lower trend line here. So it would be an amazing area here to look for buy setups. Okay, so if it goes lower, I'll be looking for buys. If it goes higher, I'll be looking for buys. Okay, so this is it. Dives lower, we'll zoom into lower time frames and look for setups. Of course, like we can start to look for buy stops from now. Okay, but we know that it can still drop lower before trading higher. From a long-term perspective, we will have to wait for this to happen. Maybe, okay, we can't really know, but this is just an idea. We want a shift in momentum from bearish to bullish because we are clearly now overall bearish. An impulse, a correction. Now in this impulse, waiting for the correction and then a break, a shift in momentum from bearish to bullish. So this is it, and here we go. So if it drops lower, we're looking for buy, and this is for the long-term reversal. On Chainlink, this is also a good one. I'm also looking to add more longs here. And let's check the comment before I go over. Okay, no comments. Let's continue on Chainlink. Here we go. We also got a demand zone, right? It's also a good area. We have the round number 10, which is a very strong round number. Of course, we've got a support and resistance here. You know what? I'll draw it to try to show it to you visually. So it's also around number 20. Anyway, you can see my alert around the 20 here. And so I have like many alerts already if for the bull to take over here from a short-term perspective, from a long-term perspective, and if it dives lower, I'll be looking for buys here also. Unless, of course, it's broken downward, then a movement even lower till here would be expected around the 5. For now, we are waiting for the bulls to take over. We can clearly see that we've got a support and resistance around the 20, which we saw from weekly time frame. And we also got this big wedge pattern. So 1, 2, 3. Now our wedge pattern is almost valid. However, it's not ready to go yet. We always wait for extra confirmation. We always wait for our trigger, which would be in this case a break above the previous high. And here we go around the round number 20, which is a support and resistance. Meanwhile, we'll be looking for buy stops on lower time frames, and the lower it gets, the higher the probability setup would be, the more attractive it would get, the cheaper, the more people are interested in buying it because it's a good one. We also got an idea. This is just an idea of head and shoulders pattern. Price can still trade lower and invalidate the whole head and shoulders idea. Okay. EOS. Okay, look at how clean this one is. Right, it's trading higher, lower, higher, lower, higher, lower. That's why it's always important to take some profits. So you buy, you take profits, sell, buy, back, right? So take profits, then look for buys again, look for buys again, look for buys again. Okay, so it's very, very important to always book your profits. Whatever goes up, go down. The stronger the upward movement is, the bigger the drop is. So bigger upward, bigger drop, right? You can see this all over the place. Big, like small, small, a small drop, a small, small, big, big, and so on. Okay. So this is basically it. Many support and resistance here. We have the 3, we have the 1 point. I don't know why it's 47. It should be 5, right? So this is it. And we've got the 6, which is here, which is the next one. Anyway, let's take it step by step. If we go lower to daily time frame, let me read this one to keep the chart clean. Here we go. Right, so we also got an inverse head and shoulders pattern forming a resistance here around the 3, which I showed you previously. The bulls are taking over already from a short-term perspective by breaking above this high. We also got this high here, which is like the major high. However, like it resulted with a wick, rejected the 3. That's why I'm waiting for the 3 to be broken upward. We can see that it's also, a support and resistance. So if you want long story short on EOS, if it drops lower, I'll be looking for buy. Why? Because it's a very strong area. we've got many rejections from it previously, so like I'm expecting like at least this movement, okay, and in this case, and of course, from a long-term perspective, to see the movement till the 6, we need to see a break above the 3. Okay, so now we've got, we were bearish, now the momentum is shifted from a short-term perspective. We're inside this, like this correction, waiting for the bulls to take over to see the next impulse movement. So impulse, a deep correction, and then the next impulse movement upwards. Okay. BNB. Let me check. Okay. Like after BNB, we'll go over like 1 or 2 more instruments, and that would be it. Okay. Meanwhile, if you want me to go over a specific altcoin, let me know in the comments. If not, that would be it. So on weekly time frame, BNB is stuck inside a consolidation in the shape of a symmetric triangle. So upward, downward, upward, downward. Now we're looking for the upward, right? Like simply put in simple terms. Unless of course you have a break below it, then this would be a break below this entire zone. However, for now, until this happens, we are looking for buy setups, and we've got the 500 here, which is a strong round number. Here we go. Okay, so that's also a strong round number. But now as it approaches this area, we'll be looking for buy stops because it's a very strong support resistance, and we're still waiting for a break above the high, which is like, as you can see, it's broken here. But if you zoom into the daily time frame, you can see that there are only like some rejection, then the bears took over by breaking below it, which we can see even better from H4 time frame. So here we go. And we trade it lower. So on daily time frame, I'm still waiting for this, for a break above it, and like this is it, right? So like below the previous low, trade it lower, above the previous high, trade it higher, below the previous low, and so on. Okay, so we were bearish previously. Now we are waiting for the bulls to take over to catch the next impulse movement upward, which is this impulse movement. Meanwhile, as price dives inside this support again, we'll be looking for buy setups. It will also be a support resistance, and we saw it from weekly and the lower brown trend line. Next, let's go for HNT. Okay, like if you remember last week, I went over this one. And if you remember, we were waiting for a break above this area from a short-term perspective. Didn't happen. And of course, this is from a long-term perspective. Also, as you can see, it didn't happen. So that's the power of always waiting for extra confirmation and trigger. Don't just buy blindly, no matter how strong a support is. For example, on weekly time frame, this was a strong support area, a support here, a resistance here. It was also a demand, aggressive movement up. It was also this lower brown trend line. So no matter how many confirms, how many rejections, no matter what, don't buy blindly. We always, the price can always break the support downward. Okay, always wait for extra confirmation, which in this case we're waiting for this break, like for the bullish takeover from a shorter perspective, and then for this one, and didn't happen. Okay, so for now, let's update it. This is a practical example on what to do in this case. That's like now the swatch pattern is no longer valid, so let's delete it, and let's update our analysis. We can clearly see that price is currently flat, right? Of course, it's bearish, but like of course it's not like as strong as previously. So a big impulse, a smaller one, and a smaller one, right? At least for now. So now let's draw a channel that engulfs the overall movement, which is clearly this one. I don't want to see this anymore. So this is it. Make an offset. Okay, copy paste. Then here we go. Okay, and our next rejection is now the next one, which is around number 10, which is also got many rejections from it, and also a demand zone. So as helium or HNT approaches the 10, we'll be looking for buy setups, or if it breaks again the 20, it would become a support again. So this is it. The scenarios are if it breaks the 20, as mentioned now, we'll be looking for buy setups, or if it dives lower and tests the 10, we'll be zooming into lower time frames and look for buy setups. So this is it. If it goes lower, I'll be buying. If it goes higher, I'll be buying. So this is it for the session. Let me know. Okay, Sito, can you check ETH? Sure, I started with ETH at the beginning. So now, like when I click on like end broadcast or end live, you can go back in time. Sorry, not back in time. So you can go back at the beginning of the video and check it out. Okay. Okay, so Frank, most of the time the price takes long at a certain level and further continue downward. What should we really look at while taking trades to avoid being caught out by the market? What should I look for? Okay, fantastic question. Okay, Frank. So, first of all, as mentioned many times during this session, as price approaches a support, no matter how strong it is, don't buy blindly. Okay, so always wait for extra confirmation, always wait for the buy to take over, and I like the daily time frame to confirm this like shift in momentum. Okay, so like always locate the last major high when you see a lower low, a big one, right? So like that's why I mentioned previously that this was a minor one. And anyway, the price didn't break it downward, and this was the major one, which is like the biggest one. Always wait for the bulls to take over. Every bullish movement is a correction, right? Every bullish movement is a correction, which was like we obviously can see lately. So price is trading higher, however, it's reversing and even trading lower. Every bullish movement is a correction inside or like during a bearish market. So like when we have when you have a green week, don't get too excited unless we have a break above the previous high from daily time frame. Of course, at the end of the correction, you can zoom into lower time frames and look for buy setups. Okay, so to catch this like short-term movement. Of course, in this case, you will need a rejection zone. So, for example, here we've got a demand. We can zoom into lower time frames and try to catch this movement again and again, right? But of course, I can follow the same logic on lower time frames. Always zoom in, like look for any bullish reversal pattern and buy. This is the first one, okay? Like through TA, okay, which is chart analysis. This is what how you avoid like getting caught inside a fake out or inside a bearish market. That's first. Second, and through like risk management, like always divide your entries in half, okay? So like okay, like I'm planning to buy HNT with $100. Okay, so like when we have the break, okay, like for example this one, okay, enter with 50. Okay, so like let me give you an example here. And okay, so like I have this high here, and then which I mentioned previously, and this major high here. So like what I do is, if we have the break here, I enter with 50 only. I enter with half of the intended amount that I would like to track risk for HNT. Okay, now like now if trades higher and break above this one, I'll be adding the second 50. Or if it breaks upward and now continue trading lower, then I'll be looking for opportunities to add the 50. Okay, so I entered the 50 or like the half of my position. If it goes lower, I'm happy. If it goes higher, I'm happy. Okay, so this is basically it. So from TA, you look for swings. For risk management, you divide your position in two. Okay, let me delete these ones. So this would be it, and don't forget the announcement I made at first at the beginning of this video for a chance to win like one lifetime access of HTL, which we saw here on weekly. Here we go. Okay, so like follow these steps. Follow me on Telegram or on Discord. Follow me on Twitter. Write your name in the comment section below of this video, of course. And next week at the beginning of the session, I will start with a live. I'll like select one winner live. And like don't forget to like this video which you are watching now. It will help train our channel like grow, and it will help this video reach more traders. This would be it for this session. I'll check the comment one more time. And yes, that's it. And I'll see you hopefully next time.